What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another Bring the Juice Colts podcast live stream. Guys, we have another chill stream. Been a while since we've done one of these, but it's time for another chill stream before the Colts take on the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming weekend. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in. Be sure to hit that like button, guys. And today, guys, we have a new member part of the channel today. We talked to this guy just a few weeks ago, and we started talking with him recently, and we're looking to try to get him involved with the channel in any way that we can. Our newest member, Max Gigantino. Max, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to work with you guys. I'm honored to be here. I love the Colts, a big Colts fan. This is a dream come true. I want to be in sports media. After school, I'm a student at the University of Tampa as of now, and I couldn't be more excited to be here with you today.
Appreciate it, man. Hey, I mean, as he just said, guys, he is a Colts fan. That has to be a requirement if you're going to be on this channel. So we definitely are going to look for him to help us with a few different video ideas going forward. Film and analysis is definitely something he's going to help us out with. So we greatly appreciate that aspect. And of course, helping me out with live streams when, you know, Cody is too busy with his day job to do anything else except that, right? So we're in this situation, guys. But again, be sure to like the stream, guys. Helps it get out to more and more people. Greatly appreciate it. Be sure to comment. Be sure to subscribe as well. We want to say thank you guys so much for all the recent support on the channel since basically the start of the season has happened, guys. I mean, we have hit over 900 new subs in the last month, and that is just absolutely insane. And Cody is actually in the chat right now, says maybe a show coming up. Yes, and that is something that we're actually thinking of doing, guys. I'm sure everyone here in this chat knows about Pat McAfee's show. Bring the Juice is looking to try to do something very similar to that. This is going to be somewhat of like an intro to one of those kinds of things. We still got some things we got to work on. We got to make things better. But nevertheless, we are thinking of potentially doing a show for most of the days during the week, you know, being able to cover more than just the Indianapolis Colts, also covering, you know, other sports and things of that nature, or just other teams in the NFL altogether. So if you guys want to be able to see that, then be sure to let us know. But let's get into some of the comments here real quick. What up, Concrete Productions? How's it going? William, what's up, man? Kevin, how you doing, man? Marquise, good to see you here, my friend. Matt, what's up, my dude? Oh, man. Well, I guess we might as well start with something that, Max, you brought up to me before we started the stream. We were talking about, you said you wanted to mention something about the press conference or the presser with Frank Reich. Said you had some notes to bring up. Why don't we go ahead and start with that then?
Yeah, so we have never seen Frank Reich that animated in his time as the Indianapolis as the Indianapolis head coach. It was very interesting to see all the hand gestures that he was doing. He loves it. Like he was talking about like loving the criticism. He loves the criticism and makes them better as a team. He mentioned, which I found interesting, and I'm sorry for that pause there.
All good.
But in 2018, when he first started as the Indianapolis head coach, he was 1-5. He started 1-5, right? And that was when Andrew Luck was a year removed from an injury and he hadn't played football in a year. So there were not really many expectations going into that season, especially with the new regime heading in. And then starting in 2020 with Carson, they started 0-3 and they came back. So but it's also concerning that he brought that up because it's a series of late starts that happened throughout his tenure. And the fact that it's happening now again is being in the thick of his tenure right now. And the fact that that's still happening is very, very concerning. And he should be on the hot seat and he should be feeling that pressure that I think he was feeling yesterday during his press conference.
Yeah, I mean, I heard people from his presser, you know, people saying that he looks defeated in a way. Like he looks like as if the pressure has finally gotten to him to the point where he doesn't look like he's even slept at this point. Like, obviously didn't see it, but I mean, if you saw it or at least heard it, I don't know if you could tell me if you think there's any truth to that statement.
He definitely is feeling it. And I think he'd be lying. He's lying if he says he's not feeling it. Anytime you have a series of late starts, like I said, that 1-1, you lose. I mean, these two games that we started with at Houston, at Jacksonville, that Jacksonville game especially was very important for this franchise with 6 straight defeats. Now it's at 7. And Irsay has to be fuming over this past loss, especially not even scoring a point down in Jacksonville. So he's definitely feeling the heat, and I'm not so sure that Jim Irsay had to be talked off the ledge again for making a change, because his father, as we all used to know, he used to go down to the locker room and fire players, cut players on the spot. And I think he's trying his hardest not to be his father. So I think that's why Jim Irsay is holding back and has stuck with this regime for so long and has the patience to stick with this regime for so long, because he's trying so hard not to be his father. And I think after this year, he's going to let the year play out. However, there's one game that I think might be the tipping point for Jim Irsay and this franchise is when the Commanders come to town and Carson Wentz is at the helm of that team. And if Carson Wentz comes into Lucas Oil and is in Jim Irsay's own building and defeats the Colts by multiple scores, that might be the tipping point for Jim Irsay to make a change. Because I don't think Jim Irsay can handle that kind of defeat against Carson Wentz, who he has so much venom towards, it seems like, in his offseason comments and even heading into the season.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Irsay was one of the driving forces in, the decision to get rid of Carson Wentz. I mean, it's no doubt that Irsay definitely wanted him gone from the end of that season. So, like you said, I mean, if he comes in back into the building and, outperforms them, then yeah, there's going to be hell to pay for sure. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely crazy to say the least. UCF Jaguar, what's up, man? Big Jaguars podcaster right there. The Jaguars podcaster, the guy that loves to make our lives miserable over here on the channel, because he gets to do that at least once a year. He's still basking in the joy of what his team just did last week. So
he should
after the end of the week, he won't be able to say anything to me for a while, but
yeah, he should be basking in the glory.
Yeah. Yeah, so I will leave you on a talking point here real quick. I have to listen to a voicemail that I just got. I'm going to hop off of this for a split second, but where was that comment? Yeah, so why don't you answer this? Because this is what Cody said. What's with the BS excuses about why the offense wasn't prepared? You even decided to not practice when you could have. Why don't you go ahead and answer that real quick? I'll listen to this voicemail real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And the excuses that came along with, well, I wouldn't call them excuses. Frank Reich has been very animated this week, more than we have ever seen, really, in his tenure, like I've said before. And he acknowledged that the offense was not prepared. Marcus Brady even said in his press conference on Tuesday that the offense wasn't prepared. The decision not to practice on Friday, yes, that was a huge mistake, especially heading into a game of this magnitude against Jacksonville. Especially, at least in the owner's eyes, of that magnitude and the fan base. So that was a huge mistake, and we should have seen it this week. We should have seen it coming because of the number of injuries that have piled up this week. Pittman from last week, Pierce was out. That was a late scratch for both of them. And Frank Reich said that they both would have been playing. He thought that they both would have been playing. And that was a late scratch, but there was no excuses for the unpreparedness of that offense in that game. He gave a weird response about the usage of Nyheim Hines and like the lack of his usage as the first quarter ended. He only had maybe 15 snaps. I know Desmond Patton, Michael Strahan, those guys outsnapped him the rest of the game after that point. And his excuse was that it would have been easier to adjust a wide receiver into those two roles of Alec Pearson and Michael Pittman than it would have been for Nyheim Hines to get adjusted into those roles, which I thought was very weird because Nyheim Hines' main position is in the slot. So it made really no sense to me why he couldn't put in Nyheim Hines' place and why he couldn't adjust the game plan for that way. What about you?
I mean, it just seems really odd that, it's really odd because there is a good combination of bad play calling and adjustments during the game, and also with the fact that the player execution also is not there as well. I mean, it's no secret that this offensive line has been absolutely atrocious since the season has started. Obviously at left tackle, we are struggling right now. And even at right guard, even at center, even at right tackle. I mean, I think the only position that you're not struggling right now is Quentin Nelson. And that's very concerning given the fact that, Ryan Kelly at one point was regarded as a top 5 center, Braden Smith regarded as a top 10 right tackle. And it just seems like none of those guys are stepping up anymore. And it's really odd. And then, I mean, it's just a combination of everything, and Cody's saying somebody I know said Reggie Wayne had it out with Frank Reich recently.
Really?
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, because Reggie Wayne, at the end of the day, Reggie Wayne is not defined by his coaching career. He doesn't give up. He doesn't care at all. I mean, he will speak his mind because Reggie Wayne's legacy speaks for itself, and that, there is a lot more pressure on Frank Reich than what there is on anything at all when it comes to Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne was brought in here to try to get things fixed, and it doesn't seem like Reich is doing justice to try to get these receivers in a position in order to make things work. And, as a matter of fact, also, we've seen Reggie Wayne and how he practices and how he coaches these guys during practice. He's a lot more upbeat. He demands a lot more out of these guys. And I think his style of coaching doesn't match with the head coach. And when you got a guy who is, that, is like that, and then he doesn't like when something's going on, then yeah, he's going to speak his mind about it, especially if he thinks that, things will go wrong. So Cody's saying in my stream tomorrow will be more information. Hey, make sure you all go check that out tomorrow, though, for sure. Was there any other talking points that you had on that notebook there that you wanted to discuss?
So I want to talk about some keys to the game for this weekend against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a big game. Kansas City Chiefs have 293 passing yards per game going up to this point. Now it's only 2 weeks into the season, and that doesn't say much about a team yet. 2 weeks into the season, except maybe the Colts, because they've looked atrocious and this has been a trend. Anyway, they're 6th in the league in passing yards per game at 293 yards, and the Colts are 15th in the league in passing defense at 228 yards per game. Now, with this Gus Bradley scheme, I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm very, very nervous about this weekend. Gus Bradley seems to run the same play every snap, but with a different linebacker on a different receiver. And you saw one play that really, really stuck out to me that probably would have put the hammer on this game earlier this past weekend in Jacksonville was maybe the 40-yard moonshot to Jamal Agnew with Bobby Okereke in coverage to the end zone, and it was a little overthrown by Trevor Lawrence. You remember the one I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That should have been a touchdown. That was another mismatch, but Bobby Okereke had no business being on Jamal Agnew flying right down the field. Then you had another one. The EJ Speed was right over Christian Kirk, I believe it was, for like another 25-yard game, 30-yard gain across the field. That should have never happened. So not only do the players have to step up on this defense, because Kenny Moore is also getting toasted every week.
Yes.
And that decision not to pay him maybe he was asked $20 million a year, which seems like a good decision right now by Chris Ballard. So not only do the players need to step up, but Gus Bradley's scheme is just bland and it's just old. And he needs to get more creative with his blitzes because I'm telling you right now, Ngakoue did not come here to get to. I mean, Ngakoue doesn't look good, and I'm sure that's part of scheme, but he did not come here to play in this kind of defense. I mean,
the only defensive lineman that has shown any kind of disruption has been Grover Stewart, and that has been strictly on run plays. I mean, he's not gotten any pressure passing wise, but obviously when it comes to stopping the run, Grover Stewart's been one of the most disruptive guys. In fact, the only disruptive guy on that defensive line. I mean, you're right. Ngakwe's got to step up. Buckner's got to step up. Quiddy's got to step up. Somebody has to step up on this D line and start getting some kind of pressure, because they're 27th in the league right now. They're the first 2 weeks at getting pressures. And you and I were talking about it right before the stream that, Gus Bradley was raving about how his defenses last year did a good job of stopping Mahomes when you look at the stats, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So it's like, is he just being a BSer right now? Or does he truly believe that he's actually that good when, I mean, we all can see with our eyes that Mahomes could throw for over 400 yards on us next week.
Last year in Jacksonville, not last year in Jacksonville, I apologize. Last year when he was with the Raiders, Gus Bradley, we have a better defensive line than they ever did in Vegas under Gus Bradley. It makes no sense why they cannot get any pressure in this scheme. Now, I know Buckner had a hip injury, but Grover Stewart, like you said, has been tearing it up. And I don't know why Yannick Ngakoue doesn't look right. He doesn't look right. Like, he's been playing in his defense for so long. He played in it in Jacksonville. He played it in Vegas. He went to Minnesota and played in it under Zimmer. He went to Baltimore. And I don't really understand why that he hasn't looked like what we've gotten. It looks like the Andre Johnson signing from years ago for us right now. And it just needs to pick up. It needs to pick up. And hopefully it's this week against the Chiefs. It can be a tall task, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I see a bunch of people talking about Frank and losing the locker room and everything else. I mean, it just sucks knowing that, this team is off to a slow start again. Yeah. You expected it, but at the same time, we thought this team was going to be in a better position than what it actually is. I mean, I don't know what the Colts do this next weekend to stop against the Chiefs. All I can really say is, I mean, something different needs to happen, because if that same defense and that same offense goes out against this team right now, then something's going to happen that's not going to go well for Indianapolis. Yeah. Right.
And especially like for the Kansas City Chiefs defense right now, I mean, their defense hasn't been terrible either. No. I mean, Chris Jones has been one of the top 5 best defensive linemen in the NFL to start the first 2 weeks. I think he's actually been PFF's 3rd graded defensive tackle in the entire NFL right now. I mean, he's just been absolutely demolishing people. And for the simple fact that, Kelly and Pinter have both struggled. I mean, Jones ain't going to be on Quentin Nelson. Nope. He's going to go up against Pinter. And I mean, as bad as Pinter's looked, as bad as that whole right side of the offensive line has looked, it might be scary to think about what he can do. The way that you said it, I was actually going to touch on this as well. The way Ryan Kelly, Denny Pinter, Braden Smith, Matt Pryor have played has been despicable. This has not been we have the highest offensive line, highest paid offensive line in the league. And Matt Ryan's been sacked 7 times in 2 games. And Matt Ryan has a 37 QBR, I think I just saw, which is 31st in the league through 2 games. Matt Ryan hasn't played his best either, but he needs help up front desperately. And the way that Matt Pryor's playing, I'm not so sure Bernard Ryman is so much better than him. But Bernard Ryman needs to be in there. He needs to be in there. Like, what's the difference between Matt Pryor and Bernard Ryman? If Bernard Ryman is going to play like Matt Pryor, might as well have the rookie take his lumps, because he's your future.
supposedly is your future. So you got to let the rookie take his lumps and let him grow in this offense with Matt Ryan instead of the fifth-year vet who's probably not going to be on the team next year.
Yeah, and it's crazy too because, that was another thing that we talked about after week 1 when we were like, we heard Reich state that, Matt Pryor is going to be the starter week 1. And, he's proven that he's the best guy. And, it took a first half for the Colts to quickly realize that was a bad mistake. So again, they mishandled the situation again, thinking Matt Pryor could handle that situation when he hasn't. And, it's like one of those situations now where you need to put Ryman in at left tackle and put Matt Pryor back at right guard where he belongs, because that's where he needs to be. That was where he was best at. And you're right. Like, Ryman, just get the freaking bumps out, man. It can't get any worse. And honestly, Ryman in the limited snaps has looked better than Matt Pryor in every way. So let Ryman get the notoriety, get him in there, have Danny Pinter be the backup for Ryan Kelly or Matt Pryor, and have that as your offensive line. It can't get any worse.
I disagree with the fact that Matt Pryor should shift to right guard and replace Pinter. I think Will Fries is going to go into right guard and replace Pinter. I want to see what Fries can do in this offense. It was a mistake to get rid of Chris Reed, who could have played anywhere on the offensive line. We let him go. Mark Lewinsky also left to go to the Giants. We let all these guys go, and we were expected to believe in this group. We were expected to believe in this highest paid offensive line group, and we don't even have a starting left tackle. Think about this. I actually just thought about this when I was just talking about it. We have the highest paid offensive line, and we don't even have a left tackle. That blows my mind. Highest paid offensive line with no left tackle. Usually left tackle is your highest paid position. But now we're playing Quentin Nelson close to $20 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
So that right now, that decision to pay Quentin Nelson isn't even looking that great. Even though he deserved to be paid, but like, is $20 million a year too much? It looks like it right now.
I just think he gave premium guys like Kelly and Smith too much money. Ryan Kelly was good, but as soon as he got paid, his production dropped very quickly.
Yeah.
And Braden Smith, again, once he got paid, got injured the next year and hasn't looked good at all since coming back. So, it's that situation where, I hate to say this towards our players that we talk about because it's my team, but, I talk a lot about certain players and they give up or they just, aren't the same after they get paid. And, that is unfortunately the case right now of what we're seeing with Ryan Kelly and Braden Smith until they prove me otherwise. I said that same thing with DeMarcus Lawrence and the Cowboys. He got paid that $120 million. And then that next year, after getting 13 sacks the previous year, he got 3 the next year. Like, how do you drop that much in production? You clearly only wanted to get paid. And then once you got paid, you just stopped caring. That's what that tells me. And, Braden Smith should not have been getting paid $18 million a year. Right now, obviously, they're regretting the Ryan Kelly contract. If you cut both of those contracts down in half right now, you'd be able to go out there and afford a decent left tackle. But, Ballard obviously botched it because he thought that Matt Pryor was going to be okay at that spot, and it's clear that he's not. And, that's another thing. And, that's just an unfortunate aspect of it. When we lost Costanzo, that position, I think people underestimated just how valuable Costanzo actually was for this team for so many years.
I don't think it's a matter of you just wanted to get paid and now you're just like coasting through your position and through the rest of your career. I think it's more of the coaching, and I think it's more the message that Frank Reich is giving each week. And I think this is another segue into I guess the problems that the Colts are having right now is when usually when players have bad losses after maybe like I'm going to count the Houston game as a loss week 1. All right, because that should be counted as a loss. The Jacksonville game last week. All 53 guys in that locker room, I don't think Frank Reich has their ear anymore.
I don't think so either.
And it's a problem, especially if the leaders of the team don't believe in Frank. Ryan Kelly, I think, is a leader of the team. Quentin Nelson's a leader of the team. All these players are preaching that everything's okay and that we're gonna figure it out. But I just don't get that vibe. I don't get that vibe from this team. It feels like this team is broken. Like this team is broken. And
it's pretty funny because it's just like if you look at the Bengals, who are in a worse position than what we are right now when it comes to record wise. I mean, I buy that the Bengals will be okay because the only issue they have on that team is the fact that they can't block, which is hilarious given the fact that, they brought in like 3 or 4 new offensive linemen and all of a sudden somehow they got worse at pass blocking. Should have just kept the guys that they had and maybe it wouldn't have even been as bad. But that's really their only issue is their just inability to block up front right now and scheme to keep Joe Burrow on his freaking feet. I mean, if they figure that out, then they're golden. They're fine. They're going to win games. And I know they're going to win games because they still got Joe Burrow. They still got really great receivers. They still got a great running back. They still have a good defense. I mean, they're going to be fine. But with us, I don't know because I don't know how the culture of the locker room feels right now. We thought these veteran guys that we're bringing in was going to bring in this leadership and things are going to go great. But right now, like you said, I don't know if they're buying into the coach's BS right now. All of them. I don't think they're buying in. And, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how much of a leadership thing you have with these guys. If they don't believe in the guys that they're playing for, then what's the point in having that?
And it trickles down to the younger guys, too. When they see the veterans not playing well and they see the veterans, we don't know this for sure, but we're speculating that maybe some of Frank Reich's message is going stale across the team. But when the rookies and the younger players see that these veterans aren't playing well, or maybe they're not all in on this coaching staff, these younger players won't play well or develop well either.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be trickling down throughout the team right now. And if this team doesn't show up versus Kansas City this weekend and prove us wrong, then we got big issues. We got big issues with Tennessee coming that next weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again to the 106 people watching right now on YouTube. Greatly appreciate it, guys. Be sure to like the stream. Be sure to comment. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. So thank you guys very much. And again, when it comes to the wide receiver aspect of things, obviously Ballard doesn't want to address it. He seems to think it's fine. And, they continue to not find ways to get Paris Campbell, Naheem Hines, and others open 5 yards within the line of scrimmage. It's crazy to think about because, Lawrence was having no problem at all in that game, just dumping it to his receivers 5 yards down the field, right? It seemed like every route they were running was just a curl back route 5 yards down the field. They were catching it and getting 6-7 yards every freaking play. That's all you need to do. But yet for some reason, Reich wanted to keep running these split seam fade out routes. And for some reason just seemed to think that Matt Ryan was still going to be able to do it when the offensive line couldn't protect. How do you not adjust to that?
And I also don't, and the offensive line was a huge issue and they had to, and the fact that they couldn't adjust is an issue with coaching that we just discussed. That's a separate issue. But with the wide receivers, and we have we have Paris Campbell. This is probably Paris Campbell's last year, honestly. Paris Campbell had zero catches and 2 targets and penalty, which is really show up in the box score with a penalty. And that's our second round pick. That's a second round pick. You have Michael Strawn, who we heard Mega Strawn from Reggie Wayne multiple times. He didn't do anything. Alvin Pierce got bopped in the Houston game. Welcome to the NFL moment. He's gone. Pittman's hurt. We don't know if he's going to be playing this week. Frank was hopeful he would be. Alvin Pierce is hopefully might not play this week because he's still in the protocol. We don't know when he's going to be able to clear that. So this is looking really, really bleak for this week, and this team has to show up in order to beat this juggernaut that's coming to Indianapolis for the first time in Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Steve, no, I did not eat breadsticks this week. I know we said that was going to be a thing because I said when we lost, but I didn't buy any. So forgive me. I was depressed all week. But anyways, yeah, I mean, and the sad part was that, Ashton Doolin, the majority of his stats came in that fourth quarter. I mean, Ashton Doolin had 3 catches for 45 yards in the fourth quarter, like that last drive of the game. And that was half of his stats. Thanks, Cody. I appreciate it. But that's the sad part of this, is that no one is producing. No one other than Michael Pittman. No one is producing. Nobody. And it's sad because it's like the Colts think they can continue to do the same thing all the time, regardless if they lose their best players. You have to change things up. And the fact that they're not doing that right now is very concerning. And, I feel like I'm just beating a dead freaking horse, talking about all this. And I mean, I'm fully expecting us to lose this next weekend. So, I know Chiefs fans are trying to say that, this could be a trap game for Kansas City, who has, a big game coming up in week 4. And, they may just look at this game and say, oh, the Colts are crap. And, it's just going to be an easy one. We've seen that happen before, but I mean, Kansas City could probably play at 50% right now and still probably beat the Colts the way they're playing right now. So, I don't know, man. I mean, this is extremely nerve-wracking. I'm glad I'm not calling this game. But nevertheless, I'm scared. I'm very scared about this. And it doesn't seem like, the old heads and Gus Bradley and Frank Reich really truly understand just how bad the situation is. I don't want to hear that we're really not that far away. Like, you are that far away. You are. Because
you are an ocean away.
If you weren't that far away, then you wouldn't be losing 24-0 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We all see through the BS. We know your team's not ready. We know it's because of you and the majority of it. And we know it's also because of Ballard unwilling to address certain position groups. And, it's becoming really bad. And at the end of the day, and Cody said it right. It's like super disrespectful to the fan base to talk to us like as if we don't understand what is going on.
Yeah.
And we all see what's going on. You may think that, this team is like, I don't care about political correctness in football. I would much rather have my coach tell me that I don't like where we're at right now, and that's on me. It's my fault that we're having these issues and that I need to fix these things because it's, our players are not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I mean, at least then you're showing that you're understanding that you're screwing up. And at least then I feel confident that at least you're not tossing it to the side and hoping we don't understand it when everyone actually does.
Chris Ballard will continue to talk to us whenever he's in front of the media because he's probably the most unaccountable person in that building right now. The most stubborn, unaccountable person in that building right now. And he will never admit that he made a mistake by not signing a veteran receiver. He'd be like, oh, we had some injuries here and there early in the season. That's what he's going to say. We had some injuries. Offensive line hasn't played well. He's not going to admit to his mistakes. And do you think that's a problem as well? The fact that we have a very stubborn GM who probably won't. I mean, I don't know how many GMs in the league will admit to their mistakes, but I mean, I think all 31 other GMs in the league would sign a veteran receiver with this receiving depth chart, don't you think?
You would imagine so. I mean, you saw what Tampa Bay just did. I mean, they just signed 2 new guys. One guy who's a veteran in this league that, has no chemistry with Tom Brady whatsoever, but you feel confident that if the guy goes out there and runs routes the way that we know he can, that Tom Brady's probably going to find him. Yes. And that's where you feel confident. Here's my thing. And people can call me a conspiracy theorist all they want, but I don't care. Ballard's already shown, the Colts organization has already shown their hand in this. The NFL has already shown their hand in this. I don't think they wanted to sign Beasley because Beasley's against the vaccination. Me personally, I think that's what it is. I mean, Ballard has already stated, like, we're not going to force our guys to do it, but we highly encourage them to do it. And, I mean, again, Beasley was one of the most out guys against the vaccines with him, Rodgers, and a few other players. Now you got a whole bunch of other guys that are coming out saying that whole vaccination thing was total BS to begin with. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why, because they probably didn't want to, because I'm sure Ballard probably had a preconceived notion about Cole Beasley, and that probably had something to do with it in a little bit of the sense. But yeah, I mean, of course, when you're talking about all GMs and coaches, most of the time they're not going to say they're wrong, right? And I understand that, but at the point of it is saying we know you're making mistakes. Yes. Now, what do you do from here? Because after the season, if Ballard still remains the GM, if he does not in any way, shape, or form go out and improve this wide receiver group by a big margin. I'm not talking drafting 2 new guys in the draft. No, going out and getting a legitimate wide receiver that has been proven to do something in the league. Then, I mean, then you're showing that you didn't learn from your mistakes. And that's what's the problem. And the weird part is with the offensive line, I said this last year, Ballard really for the majority of his career at Indianapolis has done a great job of when a position group gets a bunch of guys out the previous year, he usually goes out of his way to make sure that group is stocked again the next offseason. Yeah. And normally it comes out to pay big dividends for the Colts. Right. We talked about the offensive line struggling, and then they brought in all that depth last year, that really great quality depth. And in the moment when it needed to happen, that offensive line stepped up big in the Arizona game when 7 guys were out, right? So they stepped up, and, it felt weird that this year Ballard pretty much gave up on that philosophy. Like, we had problems with guys with COVID and then guys with getting hurt in those late games. And then sure enough, I mean, he didn't address it. As a matter of fact, he just let everybody go. He didn't re-sign Chris Reed, who went away for pennies. You didn't re-sign Glowinski, who, was getting paid $5 million by the freaking
Giants.
By the Giants. And I mean, at the simple fact of the matter is like, was Glowinski worth $6 million to keep around? Absolutely. Because he was your most reliable offensive lineman that you had. The dude never missed a game in his last 2 seasons. He was the only offensive lineman that didn't have that happen to him. I mean, so you let those guys go. You obviously didn't re-sign Fisher. We all didn't blame him for that because Fisher was terrible. Yeah. But, I mean, it's one of those situations. And then, I go back to the wide receiver thing. Paris Campbell seemed like a situation where, at the beginning of training camp, we saw Matt Ryan really making sure to get him involved. He looked like he was going to be the number 2 wide receiver. And through the first 2 games, he's been targeted 4 times? 4
or 5 times.
Targeted 3 times against the Texans and got targeted twice in the Jacksonville game. All of those targets coming in the 4th quarter when the game was already too out of reach.
Yes.
And the one target that he threw that was that wasn't catchable it was an interception thrown above his freaking head.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I know I've seen how his girl reacted to how all that's happening, and she is certainly not happy about the fact that, you know, Reich and this team have not utilized him or a lot of these weapons in the way that they should be. And I buy it, man. I think it's ridiculous. And I mean, and people want to keep talking about, I mean, again, it's both. It's both the wide receivers not getting open and the offensive scheme not working favor of the fact that you have elite speed guys not getting open in the middle of the field. Like, come on, man.
And it's also concerning to me that I was really excited personally about Jelani Woods, tight end out of Virginia, 3rd round pick. I was really, really excited about Jelani Woods, 6'6", 245, 250. The guy's a monster. Why is he not able to why can't he just throw red zone little, just put him in the red zone?
I've been saying that same thing, like when it comes to like Pittman and Mo Alley Cox. I mean, they try to get it to Cox every once in a while.
Yeah.
But like, that should be your go-to. That should be your go-to whenever you're in the red zone. It's Pittman, it's Mo, it's Jelani, or Alec Pierce. It should be one of them. You should not be running the ball at the 9-yard line every time on 1st and 2nd down, making a 3rd down and goal at the 5, and then you try to throw it and you lose yardage, and then you're in a 4th down, you're like at a 4th down and goal at the 2, and then you run some stupid wildcat crap where Hines doesn't hand the ball off. I mean, it's just like, dude, there is not a corner in the league that can guard Jelani Woods, Mo Alley Cox, or Michael Pittman on an out route. Just throw it up 3 times. You're telling me one of those 3 times that either Pittman, Cox, or Jelani are not catching it? If they're not catching it, okay, great. We can say, okay, you gave it to the guys that were clear favorites to win that route. They suck, or Matt Ryan sucks, and we need to do something different about it. But you're not even trying to do that. You're trying to run the ball 4 straight downs inside the 10, and it's not working.
I think that's all they can do. I don't think the offensive line has time to be like. I don't think there's enough confidence in that offensive line. I think they're showing us, they're telling us that they messed up with their offensive line. That anyway, they're like, I think they're trying to tell us through what they're calling that they're not confident enough in their offensive line to throw it in the red zone, because we saw what happened against Jacksonville. Matt Ryan, I guess, remember late in the game, 3rd, 4th quarter, I think it was late in the 4th. They were down there. Maybe they made 2 trips down inside in their own red zone, and Matt Ryan got sacked on 2nd down. Jelani Woods couldn't get his feet in. Matt Ryan almost threw a pick, like when he was trying to throw into double coverage to Desmond Patman. Like, this is like Matt Ryan's rolling out to his right every time, running for his life. This is broken. This whole offense is broken.
Record
This looks like the 2020 Eagles right before Carson Wentz got shipped out to Indy, ironically. Mm-hmm. This is the 2020 Eagles offense with Carson. And right before Doug Peterson got fired. This looks like the same exact thing, broken. You can't do anything. It's no offensive line. You have ironically, on that team, you have Matt Pryor at right tackle. And it's just, they gotta figure it out. They got to figure it out quickly.
And I know what y'all are talking about with Jelani, like in the preseason, y'all. I mean, he didn't even jump. He threw the ball to Jelani. Jelani didn't even jump. He just snagged it in the air. The corner couldn't even get there, and then he just ragdolled the MFer, bro. Like, I mean, he doesn't even have to jump. He's already bigger than everybody else. It's just like, yeah, it's a broken record, bro, every time. Like, that 4th down and goal against the Texans, could you imagine if they had just I'm okay with the Wildcat formation, but get even more creative. Put Mo Alley Cox on the edge of the offensive line. Pretend like you're going to block that way, right? He blocks initially, sneaks in behind that linebacker who's going to come in because they're afraid of Jonathan Taylor getting the ball, and then Hines just dumps it. Just dump it into the end zone. Cox is going to be right there, bro. Like, I mean, it's just one of those situations where it's just like, it seems so, like, other teams make it look so easy. Like, I don't understand why the Colts are the only team that seems to struggle when they get inside the 10-yard line. If you want to run the ball on first down in that situation, fine. Go right ahead. Run the play action right after. You have no problem throwing it like that in the middle of the field. Why do you have a problem doing it in the red zone? Like, it's like when they get to certain areas of the field, their decision making and their play calling just becomes a thing of like the 1990s altogether. It's just so stupid.
It's coaching. It's like you said, every team in the league is able to do it, but we struggle. But we're the ones that struggle. I think it's coaching. At this point, it's coaching. We're 5 seasons in, and this keeps happening every year. The slow starts.
Every year. Yeah, it's been the same broken record all the time. I mean, if there's any way to show that it's coaching, I mean, just look at the same thing for the last 5 years. It's been the same way every time.
So. Max, are you from Indiana? I am not from Indiana. I became a Colts fan when I was young. 2000, whenever Andrew Luck was drafted, I really started following. My whole family was Giants fans. I wanted to be different than my whole family, so I became a Colts fan when around the time that Andrew Luck was drafted. I think I was in like maybe elementary, middle schoolish. So yeah, I was really young.
You say really young, like as if I was not much older than you at that time. You and I talked about that the first time we talked. I was like, guys, this guy is 4 years younger than me, okay? He became a fan off of Andrew Luck. I became a fan off of Peyton Manning. So instantly, I feel so much older than this guy.
It seems like a whole generation apart.
Yeah. Tell me about it. And then this, the same thing. I say that all the time. I kept saying that as the argument. When is that going to stop becoming an excuse? Like, when has Andy Reid ever admitted that he's been outcoached?
Never.
One, because he's not going to admit it. One, he's not going to admit it. And second, 80% of the time he doesn't. That's the problem. 80% of the time he doesn't get outcoached. The majority of the time he coaches better than his opponent, which again makes us to believe he is a good head coach. But when your head coach over the span of the last 5 years has stated several times each season that we got outcoached and we got outplayed, how many more times do you have to hear it before you say, well, when are we going to stop getting outcoached and outplayed? Like, I think I'm paying you to not have that happen. When are we going to get it to where it doesn't become that way?
I think the target is the Commander game. I honestly, I was listening to Kevin and Query. Love that show on the radio, 107.5 FM. I'm sorry. Kevin was saying he thought the Commander game was a target for Irsay's breaking point, for his boiling point to literally boil over and go down in the locker room and fire Frank Reich on the spot. And I agree with him. Can you imagine if Carson Wentz comes into Lucas Oil Stadium, puts up 400 yards, Colts defense gets diced all day, Colts offense can't do anything ever again? Like, I think that's Irsay's breaking point. I really do.
I think it will be, or at least if it's not, it's going to be this fan base's breaking point.
Yeah,
as if if fan base hasn't already hit it. I think the fan base has already hit it. I mean, I don't think there's any coming back from this.
No.
I mean, you even have a bunch of Colts content creators coming out saying the same thing. Like, even if we make the playoffs at this point, that doesn't change my mind. So what? You make it to the playoffs against in a division that is crappy. Like, yeah. I mean, not a single team in this division right now is worth a damn. So, yeah. Like, you know what? Like, what do we? I mean, unless we win 13 of the last 15 games, I'm not wishing for anything. I mean, it's not worth it.
8 wins is going to win this division. Definitely. I think 8 wins is going to win this division. And the first one to 8 or 9 wins, it's going to be my pick to win the division right now with the way everything's looking is probably the Texans. The Texans beat us flat out. Like we had no business tying that game in Houston week 1. They almost beat the Broncos week 2. I think the Texans are a really good football team. And I think they're going to be the first ones to 8 wins. I honestly think that if we lose to the Chiefs, this is the 5th year. It's going to be way too many comebacks. Like it just gets to a point where players just stop believing with all these slow starts. It's going to be way too much like emotion flowing through that locker room. And the noise didn't get so loud because Reich is right in the thick of his tenure. Like he doesn't have the excuse of like, okay, let's give it another year. Let's get rid of Carson. Let's get rid of Phillip. Phillip was old. Get rid of Jacoby. Get a real quarterback. That's over. We have Matt Ryan. We have Matt Ryan right now. Matt Ryan chose us to win him a Super Bowl before his career is over. He chose the Indianapolis Colts. The time is now. And if they don't get this done, Irsay might fire everybody. And I think it's gonna be way too much to come back from if they fall to the Chiefs and if they fall to the Titans. I think it's over.
I mean, I don't think that's something that's out of the question. I mean, yeah, if we end the season really badly, then yes, Ballard and Reich need to go. Start fresh at this point because it can't get you any worse, right? I mean, if you only win 8 games, I mean, yeah, then you absolutely deserve to lose your jobs because, it's just one of those situations where it's not a bad team performing badly. It's a good team performing badly. And that reflects on the higher ups and you need new leadership. So,
yeah,
we'll see how that goes though. But I'm going to end this stream with us talking and doing some NFL schedule picks. I want to get your picks on the week 3 games. I do have another phone call I need to make, but yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and go first. I want to hear your thoughts. Steelers and Browns tonight. Who do you got?
I'm going with the Steelers on this one. I think with the Browns having a team meeting this early in the season, I think that's a recipe for disaster. I think there's way too much drama going on in that building that we don't know about, especially on top of this Deshaun Watson arrival in Cleveland. I think there's way too many distractions, and the way that team lost to the Jets last week, I think it's going to be way too much to come back from. And this Steelers team is hungry, and I believe in the Steelers team. So I'm going with the Steelers tonight.
I'll say this. I think the Browns are going to sneak this one out. I think the biggest problem they have right now is their coaches are in the same situation that the Colts are right now. I think people are starting to give up hope on these coaches because, the Browns are losing in ways that they shouldn't be losing. I mean, they won week 1 and, it was an emotional game and it's week 1 and you win ugly games sometimes in the first week. You get that. And then just the way that, when it came to how they lost last week, they just had a complete meltdown. And the fact that anyone would say that Chubb was in the wrong for scoring a touchdown to put his team up by 2 touchdowns going into, and yeah, it's just like, that's ridiculous. And it's utterly and really ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, the fact that what was it? How many minutes did they have left in the fourth quarter before?
I think it was just over 2.
Yeah, just over 2 minutes. Like that in 99% of games is winning you the game. 99%. Yeah. I mean, hell, if the Jets didn't recover the onside kick, then we're not even talking about that. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I think they lost on a really bad one. And I think the energy inside Cleveland is going to be a little different. I think that they're going to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage now that TJ Watt's not there. So I'll have them by like 3 points tonight.
It's going to be a close one for sure.
Bills and Dolphins, man, the game of the week.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bills on this one. I don't think anybody's beating the Bills. I don't think there needs to be an explanation of why I'm picking the Bills. Josh Allen is going to be the MVP of the league this year, is my pick for the MVP. The Bills are playing on a different level right now.
Yeah.
And I think the Dolphins are a great team this year. I think they're going to be really good. I think they're going to sneak into a wild card spot. But I think the Bills are for real, and I think the Bills are that team. So I'm picking the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills, it just seems like nothing has been a challenge for them. Ironically enough, the 3 receivers that lead the league in touchdowns are all playing in this game. Diggs has 4, Tyreek has 4, and Waddle has 3, if I'm not mistaken. So,
right.
I mean, these teams are right now. Besides Kansas City, I think these 2 teams are the 2 best teams in football right now. Bills, I think they just do 1 or 2 more things better than what the Dolphins can do right now. I mean, right now the Baltimore defense is in shambles, and I think that's why they were able to pick apart the Baltimore Ravens the way they did. The Bills right now, they're doing everything right. They're getting after the quarterback, which is something I think Tua's going to have to deal with that he hasn't had to deal with yet. Their secondary is really good. And then they're stopping the run, even though that's really not something the Dolphins are known for doing right now. And, the Dolphins, they've been giving up points too. I mean, they gave up 17 against the Patriots and then gave up 38 to Lamar. So I definitely feel like the Bills can score at least 28 points in this game, which they've been averaging 36 points through the first 2 weeks. So really, there just hasn't been much of a challenge. I just think the Bills do 1 or 2 more things better than what the Dolphins do at the moment. And so I think they'll get 1 or 2 more stops that's going to decide this game. So I think it's going to probably be like a 35-28 shootout in this game. So look for both teams to score frequently, but I think the Bills are going to just get those 1 or 2 more stops than what the Dolphins will.
Yeah, and
especially after an emotional win like that, I always have the conception that if you win an emotional game, you don't play as well the next week because you exhausted a lot of energy into that, and you sometimes come back to reality a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate because both of these teams are so good, and you're going to lose one of them. But, I mean, as long as neither one of them gets blown out, then I don't think the perception of either one of these teams is going to change. We both know these 2 are really good teams. So,
and during Miami's comeback last week against Baltimore, the just an interesting little tidbit. Last year, Miami wrecked Baltimore's offense with that cover 0 look with that 8 up on the line of scrimmage. Baltimore tried running that same thing with the new defensive coordinator they got from Michigan this year last week, and they left Tyreek Hill wide open running down the field that got them within 1 score. And watching the film back on that, they had maybe 4 or 5 guys running right into each other right off the line of scrimmage. So that play was a recipe for disaster from the start. Nobody was on the same page.
Yeah, it was definitely something. And then, on top of it, we were looking at the Ravens secondary. I mean, just looking at who is it? Marlon Humphrey, and who's the other corner they have? I'm having a brain fart. Who's the other one? The one that played with Ramsey for a while? Marcus Peters, that what it is?
Yeah, Marcus Peters.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they were having difficulty, they were having difficulty keeping up with the speed. I think that it just had to do a lot with the injuries that they were sustaining from before. And I think they're still a little rusty. So, that had something to do with it. If you can just limit the big plays from Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, if you can just keep them from getting those 50-yard touchdown plays, those big ones, and force them Tua to dissect you going forward, then you'll take those, because then you'll take the chance on Tua having to beat you with his smarts rather than his arm. Right. So I think the Bills will do that. Bengals against the Jets.
I'm gonna take the Bengals. This is a get right game for the Bengals. I know the Jets won emotional last week, but I don't think that's gonna happen again. I think Joe Burrow's out for blood. He deleted Instagram and Twitter, so I think Joe Burrow's locked in, and I'm picking the Bengals on this one. I think this is a get right game for them.
If they can just keep him to getting sacked 2 times or less, then you're going to be in that situation. Like, again, the Bengals are a great team. Just the fact that their offensive line is trash. If their offensive line cannot be trash for a little while, then they should beat this team. No problem. I mean, again, it was a dramatic win for the Jets. I think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. Yeah. Don't expect Joe Flacco to throw for 400 yards against this Bengals secondary. I don't believe they're going to do that. So I think the Bengals will win this game by at least 10 in this game.
I'm worried that Joe Burrow is going to turn into Andrew Luck behind that offensive line in Cincinnati. I'm worried about that for him.
Very nerve-wracking. You know, he's been sacked 5 more times than all the rest of the AFC North quarterbacks combined. I mean, that's insane numbers.
And they revamped that offensive line. That whole right side is brand new.
Yeah, absolutely. Raiders versus the Titans.
This is a good game. This is a very good game. But I'm going to go with the Raiders. The Raiders had a huge lead. They were up 20-0, I think, against the Cardinals last week in Vegas.
Yeah, it was 23-7 at the end of the third quarter.
Something like that.
You know, they were up 2 scores with the 2-point conversions as well. So, you know, I mean, they were up by almost 3 scores.
Yeah, and I think Derek Carr and I think Devontae and I think Darren Waller are going to get on the same page again. I think they're going to continue to build on what they already have. I think that defense is going to get right because I bet you they've been getting chewed out all week. So I bet you they're ready to get out there. And I think the Titans are in trouble.
Yeah,
I think the Titans are in big trouble. I don't think they're not playing well at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm picking the Raiders on this one.
Yeah, I'll pick the Raiders as well. They're I think they're destined to finally get the win after almost getting it 2 weeks in a row. So, Saints versus the Panthers.
Ooh, Panthers. I believe in Baker.
I'm gonna go Panthers as well. I think even with their injury problems, I expect Andy Dalton to start for the Saints, and I don't know how Andy Dalton's gonna perform, even with if Alvin Kamara is gonna be back. I don't even know, but I think the Panthers will finally get their first win. Ravens versus the Patriots.
Say it again.
Ravens versus the Patriots.
Ravens, 100%. I mean, the flirting between Bill Belichick and Lamar Jackson all week, I think, and that they're talking about the meeting that they had before the draft. I think Belichick's going to be sleep up all night the night before because that defense does not look good. They got torched by the Dolphins all game long. Mm-hmm. They got tossed around, and Lamar Jackson's probably going to run all over him for over 100 yards in this game. So I'm picking the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree as well. And Ozai, Jameis has a broken back at this point. He's
he's like 7 bones in his back that are broken.
Yeah, so he's in a lot of pain. Lions versus the Vikings.
Lions. I think I believe in the Lions. I don't think it's just hype. They had a big win last week against the Commanders. And that was a test for the Lions against the Commanders to win a game that they probably should win at home, and they did that. And I think the Vikings are coming off a loss against the Eagles that is very deflating for them. Excuse me. And I think Kirk Cousins is a 500 quarterback, and I think he's gonna win 1, lose 2, win 2, lose 1 for the rest of the season. And I think the Lions are gonna feed off that energy. And I think they're gonna come out fighting and biting kneecaps off. So I'm gonna go with the Lions.
I'm gonna go with the Vikings in this one. I think the Lions are gonna come back down a little bit. Their defense has not been good, even though they've been scoring. Their defense has been terrible. It's not a primetime game for Kirk Cousins, so he's gonna be better than what he was last week because Kirk Cousins never does well in primetime games. And I think the Vikings will get back on track after suffering with the Eagles last week. I think they'll get right. I think they'll win this one. Eagles versus the Commanders. The Carson Wentz reunion here. Yeah.
This is personal for Howie Roseman and the Eagles. Even though Doug Peterson's not there anymore, this is the Eagles game between Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz. And I'm sure Jalen Hurts wants to stick it to Carson Wentz for having to wear that number 2 that first year behind Carson. And the Eagles are for real this year. I believe in the Eagles. I think they're going to be a team coming. They're going to be one of those top 2, 3 teams coming out of the NFC this year.
Yeah, I agree with the Eagles there. Texans versus the Bears.
Oh man, Texans. I'm gonna roll with the Texans. I like the Texans this year. I think they're a very solid football team, and the fact that the Bears can't throw the ball with Justin Fields is very concerning. So I'm gonna go with the Texans on this one. I like the way they've looked.
I'm going to go with the Bears. I think somehow the Bears win this one. I think they can run the football still, and that's something the Texans have never been particularly good at stopping. So I think that somehow the Bears find a way to maintain control at that line of scrimmage through that way. So somehow I think the Bears are going to win. Jaguars versus the Chargers.
Oh,
And apparently Herbert is wearing some like protective padding.
Yeah, that's why I thought.
Yeah, they showed like he was getting hit in the side with a bat and still wasn't moving. So, like, apparently he's going to be, they said he's probably going to be ready to go. Even if he's not, I still think the Chargers win it.
I think the Chargers are way more competent than the Colts.
Yes.
I think they're going to get their starting center back as well, Corey Linsley, who left the game last week against Kansas City. I think he's going to be back this week. So I'm still going to go with the Chargers and Herbert.
Yep. Rams versus the Cardinals.
I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. I don't like the way the Rams have looked. Even though they got a win last week against the Falcons, that's a game they should have won against Marcus Mariota. The way that the Cardinals won last week, I think they've got some momentum going to this week, and I like the Cardinals. I like their offense. I like the way Kyler Murray plays. I like Zach Ertz, so I'm gonna go with the Cardinals on this one. Their defense is also solid. They're coming off a huge game in overtime as well with that fumble returned by Byron Murphy. So Cardinals.
Another example of an emotional comeback from behind win. I just think it's just not going to go well for them. So I'm going with the Rams. I think even though the Rams won last week, they're not satisfied with how they did it. And I think Sean McVay is going to get some things figured out. So I'm going with the Rams here. Packers versus the Bucks.
I'm gonna go with the Bucks. The Packers, like we were talking about before we got on air, the Packers have 4 wide receivers that did not practice today.
Yeah,
and that does not vote well for Sunday.
Yeah.
So,
and we were wondering about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers issues at wide receiver. Apparently, Green Bay is going to be just as bad, if not
just as bad or worse, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So, the only way that the Packers can win it is if, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones just take over. And say what you want about the Buccaneers team, their defense is still elite. Their defense still gets after anyone. You don't move them up front, and Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon are going to have to scrap for every yard that they get. So I think the Buccaneers still are going to be in an okay situation because they can still run the ball. Tom Brady, even though he has virtually none of his receivers playing in this game, still is the commander of that team. He still will figure things out. So I think the Bucs will win it too. Falcons versus the Seahawks.
This is a tough game. I'm gonna go with the Seahawks.
I'm going with the Falcons. I think the Falcons get their first win. Think they get their first win. I think they got some confidence in themselves last week for almost pulling off that big win. And, the Seahawks, they looked terrible against the 49ers, had no offense whatsoever. I just think their offense is just stagnant right now. And I think the Falcons have some more untapped potential that they haven't even hit yet because they haven't been targeting Pitts at all, but Drake London's been getting things going. And I think the Falcons just have a little bit more going for them right now.
2 big guys, Drake London versus DK Metcalf. That's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely right. 49ers versus the Broncos.
I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think Nathaniel Hackett says too much. I think he says, I hope way too much. I think he questions himself to the media in his press conferences way too much and his decisions. I don't think he'll be the head coach of the Broncos next year, quite honestly. And the way they played against the Texans says that as well. So I'm gonna go with the Niners. I think Jimmy G gives that team confidence. I think that gives that team a sense of urgency.
Yes.
A sense that they're not gonna get held back. The whole playbook is available to them, and Jimmy G is familiar with that offense. Kittle might be back as well, so I'm gonna go through Niners.
I'll agree. The boys versus the Giants.
I'm gonna go Daniel Jones over Cooper Rush.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going with the boys. I'm
Yeah.
going with a surprise upset here. I think that somehow, some way, the boys are going to do it. And here's the thing: like, I mean, we saw how they played last week. I mean, they play. I don't know what it is, but I know some people have been getting flack for making this argument. But I think the Cowboys play harder for Cooper Rush than what they do for Dak Prescott. I really do believe that. And I mean, the Giants. I mean, they've been doing enough, but I don't know if the Cowboys defense shows up that we saw against the Bengals, then that team is going to win.
Yeah.
Now, does that defense show up? Does Micah Parsons get those 3 sacks that's going to throw Daniel Jones off his rhythm? If not, and Saquon Barkley goes insane, then yeah, I understand that.
Did you see that's interesting you say that. Did you see what Jerry Jones said today?
No.
To the media. Jerry Jones was talking today, and he was like, well, I think Dak will I think Cooper Rush plays it well with Dak when Dak's healthy. Something along those lines. And he said there could be a controversy when Dak comes back. If Cooper Rush keeps winning.
It's hilarious because I hear other people, like even people inside that organization, say that narrative is completely false. But it's just like, it just doesn't seem false because, the first week that they played, they showed no urgency. And then when Cooper Rush comes in, unbeknownst to everyone, they start playing like a completely different team. Yeah. I mean, it's odd. I don't know if it's just because they feel like they have to do more or if they just feel like they have to do less because Dak's on the field versus everything else. I don't know. But that team on Sunday looked completely different than what they did week 1 against Tampa Bay. And I mean, I don't know why, but it felt different. So
that was a terrible Jerry Jones impression that I just tried as well.
The Chiefs versus the Colts, the last one here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs, even though I want the Colts so bad.
I think you and I both want them to win, but I think that we're in a situation here where we're not going to pick them to win until they prove otherwise that they can win.
Yeah,
because after what we just saw last week, I don't think there's any scenario in which I would say, oh yeah. we can beat any team right now.
Right.
So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let us know what your thoughts are. Again, thank you to Max for being on this stream. Welcome him, guys. He is going to be the newest member of the BTJ family. Greatly appreciate everybody who stopped in to watch this stream. Had like 130 people in here, which is great for a Thursday afternoon. Greatly appreciate all your support, guys. And as always, go Colts.